Podcast City Network.
You're listening to The Everett Lee Show, a shot of entertainment to the head. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the entertainment.
What's up, everyone? Everett Lee here for the Everett Lee Show podcast. I want to give a quick shout out to all my followers on Twitter. You can follow me at the Everett_Lee, Facebook.com/the Everett Lee. Click that thumbs up. And of course, Podcast City Network, the official host of the Everett Lee Show. Well, I'm back after a crazy episode from Saturday night, episode 100. I celebrated my 100th episode Saturday night with David C. Russell of Deathmatch Russell Podcast, and of course, Cody from Bear Claw Survival. However, David C. Russell was supposed to be joining me tonight here on the podcast. He's under the weather. David, hope you feel better. I know you're watching and tuning in tonight, and we're going to have one heck of a podcast tonight on the program. Tonight on the program, I have none other than wrestling photographer. You may have noticed my guest at wrestling events there with the camera, taking pictures of the talent and taking pictures of everything that's going on around him. I want to welcome to the program tonight wrestling photographer Wayne Palmer. How you doing, Wayne?
I'm doing fine. How you doing?
I'm great, man. I am great. I'm great. So, what's been happening lately with you, Wayne? Last time I talked with you was on Deathmatch Russell's podcast. We were talking with Patricia Summerlin, Sunny, the California girl. You called in, and that was a really good conversation that we had there. And it was great hearing from you, talking to you and stuff. And what's been going on since last time we talked on there?
I've been not too much. Whatever wrestling show is being wrestled, I'll go see. I have to look at my calendar. I really don't have nothing much on the agenda. I am going Saturday to a new venue in Cleveland.
Oh, nice.
So I'm anxious to see what they're like. That's
awesome, man. That is awesome. What match or will you be attending there?
It's more local guys. I really haven't looked at the card, so I'm more interested. There's a event going on tomorrow called Cinema Wasteland. It's usually held once or twice in Cleveland. It's like sci-fi stuff, and I'm into that too. So
nice. I was doing research on you, and there wasn't really much research that I can get except just off of your social media and just the photos and the pictures that you have. And one thing when I was doing the research trying to find stuff on you, it was kind of hard because there's not much of you out there except what people know of you at events and everything. Now, first question I want to ask is where did Wayne Palmer grow up at?
Well, I was born in Toronto, Canada, and when I was about 12 years old, my dad got a job in the United States here, and we moved here to we moved to Bedford, Ohio, and then I moved to Northfield, and I've lived around this area for all my entire life, except for the time I was in the service.
Uh-huh. Wow. So you pretty much you've moved around being in the military, right?
Well, I got to see a little bit of the world in the military. The only thing that was really neat about the military, I was stationed in Georgia, and I watched a lot of wrestling on TV in Georgia before Ted Turner bought it. I forget what the territory was, but when I came back and started watching it, it was on a super. They had a super station called Super Station 17 out of Atlanta, Georgia, and it used to show the wrestling from Georgia, and it completely changed from what I had watched because Gordon Soley came in, and he was sort of running the show there.
Right. Yeah, I remember the Southern Territory just like that there, hearing stories and stuff with Gordon Soley running the Mid-South. Would you say it was Mid-South right there with the wrestling and stuff? It was before.
Well, I don't know what territory it was. Gordon Soley actually had the Florida territory because my buddy was in the service and Soley was there, and then all of a sudden he's in Georgia. So, a little interesting story if you want me to veer away from it. I met Gordon Soley's son this last year, just a few months ago, and he said his dad lived in Florida. He used to fly to Atlanta to tape all the shows in Atlanta on Saturday.
Nice.
So he was still living in Florida all those years.
Oh, no way. No way. All those years he lived in Florida. That's neat. Mm-hmm. How was it meeting him?
Gordon Soley's son was very nice. He wasn't stuck up or anything, just because he was from wrestling royalty. And
right.
Very nice guy. I think he just turned 65, so he's about the same age as I am, age group. And he still lives in Florida. So
yeah,
he probably has a lot of stories to tell.
Oh yeah. I bet. I can imagine stories he can tell growing up, being around in the wrestling business and everything. I can only imagine. That's cool that you got to meet Gordon Soley's son.
Yep.
That is awesome. That is. So at a young age, you got into wrestling, and it was watching wrestling there in the South. What other programming did you watch as you were growing up?
Well, actually, my dad bought a black and white TV when I was probably about 5 years old, and we used to watch it from Canada on the network. And I remember watching wrestling from Chicago,
mm-hmm.
New York Timers. And it was I forget what network it was, but there was two places they showed it from, New York and Chicago. I remember.
Right.
I vaguely remember the Kangaroos, and they were an old wrestling tag team, and that was my early extent in Canada. When I moved to the United States, we were part of the Cleveland territory run by Johnny Powers, ran it till he moved out of town by night. He went bankrupt, and Ron and Pedro ran that territory, and it consisted of Akron, Cleveland, Buffalo, Syracuse, and Rochester. So we got a taste of, and also the Sheik used to come in our territory from Detroit. So we had basically Detroit and upper state New York wrestlers wrestling.
Oh, that's nice. That is nice. That is awesome, man. That is awesome. Now, during that time growing up, watching wrestling and stuff, did it inspire you to get into photography, or was that a passion? That's something you had growing up as a kid?
No, it was accidental. I got into photography because I got bored when I was in the service, and I bought a camera when I was in the Army, and I started taking pictures. I really didn't start taking wrestling pictures till about 1999, when I started following the indies.
Oh.
But in that time, I didn't take pictures for a long time. I took it when I was in the service. My camera had actually broke, the one I had.
Right.
And I was going to Mexico. I bought a camera so I could take pictures in Mexico. And when I came back, things changed at work. And we used to get a lot of overtime at work, and they changed the policy. So I had time on my hands, and I saw a little ad in the local newspaper about indie wrestling, and I started following indie wrestling at that time. And then henceforth the internet came around and really broadened my horizons because I didn't know much. There wasn't much advertising until the internet came as far as indie wrestling went.
Right. Right. Now, what was your first camera that you used?
My first camera, I had a Pentax.
Pentax.
I bought it from a fellow, one of the guys in the barracks. I was looking for a camera, and he found out, and he sold me, I think, for $50. It was a ASHI, a Shy Pentax. It was a good camera, but somebody stole it from me in Germany. I left my locker open, so I bought a Nikkormat, which was a Nikon, and I've been using Nikons ever since.
Oh, Nikons. How is that? Using that type of camera right there.
Well, we changed that format. I mean, I shot film for quite a few years, film and slides, and that got kind of expensive too. Especially when you started shooting wrestling pictures and you wanted triplicates, doubles and triplicates so you could give to the guys or sell to the people or whatever you wanted to do with your pictures.
Right.
And I was going to Las Vegas with a buddy of mine, and he had a digital camera, and I was really enamored with digitals. So I bought myself a Fuji. It was a Fuji camera, a Fuji S7000. It took great pictures, but the problem with the point-and-shoot cameras is it couldn't stop the action. You were like guessing. If a person was doing a drop kick, you had to time it.
Right.
So you could get the picture right. Now with the single-lens reflex cameras I have now, you can stop a race car going 180 miles an hour. So, I mean, you can get action right then and there. And I've moved up. I've had, I don't know, about 5 or 6 different models of Nikons. I'm shooting a D600 now, which is a full-frame camera. It's anomalous to a 35-millimeter camera. Like, you can take pictures, you can blow them up, you can crop them down. Fantastic camera. Plus, it shoots HD video. If you want to, I don't shoot video with it, but I do see people shooting video with that camera.
Right. Now, do you use different types of lenses depending on what kind of shot that you want, depending on what you're trying to shoot for, or you just stick with one lens?
I shoot a zoom. It's a 20 to 200 millimeter zoom. I can zoom in and out, and I do that a lot.
Right. That's neat. Because I got a slideshow up of some of the pictures. I took it off your Facebook there, and I took one of the pictures where you're outside the ring and you're getting ready to shoot. Looks like you're getting ready to shoot a picture of. There's a female wrestler inside the ring, and it looks like she has like cat whiskers on and stuff. And I thought that was a pretty nice picture right there of you outside the ring doing what you do there.
Well, I found out I started taking pictures of people in the crowd. People like that, to see themselves at the wrestling shows.
Oh, yeah?
And I have friends now that shoot pictures of me shooting pictures. So at least I have pictures of me shooting up on the ring.
Yeah. That's cool. You got that going on right there. Did you didn't attend any college or anything? You were in the service?
Well, actually, I went to the University of Akron for a little while before I was in the service, and when I came out after I came out of service, and I had about probably 2.5 years of college, and I went to tech school.
Oh, nice.
I really wasn't a college grad per se.
Oh.
What I learned, I applied, so I'm happy.
Yeah.
You need college today. You
Ye-
really do.
Yeah.
You can. There are fields you can go into where you can get training, where you can make a good living, but you have to find them, whatever the market looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely do. You definitely do. With the way things have changed now in the world and stuff, yeah, you do. You definitely do need college. I did go to a semester of college back in 2011. I did computer A+ hardware, and I did creative writing. I enjoyed both of those. I would have continued on, but however, financial aid kind of nipped me in the rear there, and I wasn't able to go back, and I didn't pursue it. However, that same year, my wife graduated with a AS in childcare, which I was very, very proud of. But you said you attended the University of Akron. I lived up in Ohio, actually, at one point in my life.
What part of Ohio did you live in?
I lived in Cambridge. I don't know if you heard of Cambridge.
Cambridge?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know that's about center part of the state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I spent about 5 years there. I finished high school there, and I moved up there when I was 16, and it was a big culture shock from a teenager that grew up until he's 16 in Daytona Beach, used to being around the surf and the sand and the hot weather, and then going up to Ohio and just seeing snow for the first time. That was just something totally different.
Little sidelight near Cambridge is Salt Fork, the state park there.
Mm-hmm.
They hold a Bigfoot festival there. There's been Bigfoot sightings in the park there.
Yeah, they're actually my friends of my neighbors. Well, actually, you would say I lived way out in the country. I lived with my mother and stepdad on about 10 acres out in the country there. I loved it because during the winter I got a snowboard and a lot of hills, so I snowboard. But down the road, some friends of my parents, they owned like 20 acres. They own all this land, and they talked about how they seen like Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and they'd hear stuff at night and everything. And I thought that was totally neat. And I've been to Salt Fork before. I definitely know where that is. And yeah, they've have that Bigfoot festival out there. That is pretty neat. I haven't thought about that in years.
They also had the Juggalos had a couple meetings there near Cambridge. I forget what town it was, but it wasn't far from Cambridge.
Was it probably? It might have
coming of the Juggalos, and they usually have a crazy wrestling shows, and they start like at midnight.
Yeah, it's probably. I'm assuming it'll probably be Zanesville, because that's pretty close to Cambridge. It's about 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was near Zanesville. I forget what town it was, but it was a deal where if you parked your car within the campgrounds, you couldn't take it out. You were there for the whole show, unless you parked out of the campgrounds and you could walk in. But I was planning to go there because they had some definitely crazy shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, Juggalo Championship Wrestling, JCW. They do put on some crazy shows and stuff. Have you attended one before?
No, but I was in Dayton at a Ring of Honor show, and the guy that runs the Juggalos came up to me and was talking to me. I didn't know the fact at that time he was involved with the Juggalos. Mm-hmm. But you never know who you're going to run into.
Oh no, you never know who you are going to run into, man. I mean, especially when you go to events and stuff. Like a few months ago, it was back in June, I went to the Game Changer New Japan event that was here in Daytona Beach at the Ocean Center over on the beach side, and I was there. I attended that. Got to see some really good wrestling there. It was a good cross promotion between the video games and wrestling. And Kenny Omega was part of that with the CEO Gamer. And while I was there, I was leaving, and I noticed hanging out there in the crowd. It was after the crowd. Well, actually, I noticed during the show, I seen Simon Gotch, and after the show, when everyone was clearing out, I approached him, went up to him, and greeted him, said what's up and how he's doing. And I mentioned that back when he used to be in NXT, they used to come out to Daytona Beach and do NXT Live events. And I remember watching him when he was starting out in NXT and coming there and stuff. And I mentioned to him I attended NXT events back when he was in it and out at the place that they had it at. And he's like, oh yeah, I remember that. And I said, yeah, I used to go out there and watch it. And he said, yeah. He said, one night we were setting up out there and we seen the cops back behind the place tase a homeless guy. I was like, yeah, that's Daytona there, because the place at the center they had it at was in a, was in kind of a, on the edges of the rough part of town in Daytona. I don't know what you actually would consider a rough part of town in Daytona.
Do you go to many NXT shows?
I did when they'd come to Daytona. Sometimes I wouldn't know about it because they would slip past me, and then I'd get online and then someone would share something to say NXT was in Daytona, and I was like, really? And then I'd go through and read the card, who was there, and I kind of kicked myself in the butt for not paying attention and going and stuff. Now, one of the things I loved about going to NXT events was that I got to see starting out was Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, a lot of the talent that you see that's on the main roster now, like Charlotte, Flair, Sasha Banks. Just watching them wrestle.
On a sidelight, they were at the Arnold in Columbus. That was the first shows they ran out of state. It was in Columbus, Ohio, and then their second show was in Cleveland, but they were at the Arnold the one year, and I was looking through, and I'm gonna be posting some pictures I have of those gals, and they were with NXT. Because WWE won't let you photograph up close, but at the Arnold I could.
Yeah.
And I have pictures of the ring of Hulk Hogan and Triple H together with Jimmy Hart in the same ring.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Speaking of Jimmy Hart, Wayne, Jimmy Hart actually has a place here in Daytona Beach.
Very nice gentleman.
Every
time I've run into him, very nice guy.
Very nice guy, down to earth. He has a tiki bar and deck here in Daytona Beach here on the beach side. It's not far from my house.
Do you know how old he is?
He told me. I couldn't believe it, and I told him
he's about 76 years old. He doesn't look it.
He don't. He mentioned how old he was, and I was just speechless. Like just talking about it, I was just stuttering and just was like, what? I was like, no way. You don't even look like it, Jimmy. And he's such a genuine nice guy. When I'd go in there, me and my wife would go in there and watch events that he would have on in there at his place, and he'd see me and he'd greet me and ask me how I'm doing, ask my wife how I'm doing, and the first thing he'd ask me too was, he's like, how's that baby girl of yours doing? Because I'd show him I have a 1-year-old daughter, and I'd show him pictures of my daughter and stuff, and he'd look and he'd say, man, she's growing up. I said, yes, she is. Genuine nice guy.
Yeah, I've taken a lot of pictures of people that are in NXT now, Johnny Gargano, Ray Rowe. I've taken a lot of Sarah Bridges, who's in WWE, and Dory Prange, who's Ruby Riott. And I call her Athena, but the one, I forget what her name was. She's up in the WWE now. So I have a nice library of these people when were early in the indies. I'm glad they've moved up. I'm glad they're making some money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They paid their dues.
Yeah, they definitely did. They definitely did. I have some pictures on my computer of like when they like talking about like Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Sasha and Alexa Bliss was starting out. I'll have to share them to you sometime and show you the pictures I've taken back like in 2014. And
The funny thing is, when I was at the Arnold, I was standing right next to JoJo, and we were talking to her. She was very, very nice.
mm-hmm.
She was doing their announcing.
Yeah.
And like you say, all those people were there at the beginning. I also knew from way, way past when he was with XPW, Ryan Katz, who's a producer with them now. I had met him out in California when I was one of the shows.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What show was that?
That was That was Robert Black, XPW.
XTW.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's cool. That is awesome. And it is, man. You don't know who you're gonna run into and who you're gonna meet at wrestling events, man. Now
A lot of athletes like him too. Sometimes you'll see pro athletes come to the shows, and so a lot of celebrities too. Oh, go ahead. We can dwell on that later on.
Yeah. One other question I have is, what were some of the? Well, I already asked that there. I'm looking at my notes there. Okay, kind of jumped around. I like this. This is really good conversation. Just sitting here, just having a good conversation, talking about wrestling and going to events and stuff. I definitely do love it. I definitely do. Now, what was your first like live wrestling event that you went to? And at that event, was it when you first started taking pictures of wrestlers?
I wasn't taking pictures, but my first live wrestling event was at the Akron Armory in Akron, Ohio, and that was the end of the territorial. That was around 1972, 73. I saw wrestlers like Bobo Brazil and the Sheik, Dula the Butcher, Ernie Ladd, the Love Brothers, the Von Erichs, Dominic DeNucci, Tony Parisi, names from the past.
Wow. That is awesome. That is awesome. You said in 1999. That's when you started first taking pictures of wrestlers. What?
Yes.
How did that go about? Now.
Well, actually, I was sitting. I didn't have my good camera at that time. I was just sitting in the audience taking. I was in the back row at Cleveland All Pro Wrestling, and I sort of got involved with that accidentally. I used to go to the backyard shows where there was another group of guys. They were like the Outlaws, or they called it Outlaw Wrestling back when, before it was called the Indies. And I used to show this one guy who got into promoting with another promoter, and they liked my pictures, and I started taking promo shots of what they used to have sponsors. They used to take a pic when they had a wrestler like, I'll pick one out of a hat like, my mind went blank. But anyway, when they have a wrestler come in, I would take a picture, a promo shot, blow up the pictures, and give it to them, and that's how I got started in it.
That's cool. That's cool. That's kind of like how you'd say Paul Heyman and Jim Cornette, how they got into wrestling, was they started out as photographers, and it just snowballed into where they're at, today. and that's amazing. And what is some of your favorite wrestlers that you have photographed over the years?
I like Tracy Smothers.
Tracy
I like
Smothers?
people that are very animate. Tracy's very, very good. I've taken a lot of Ethan Carter, whose name is Michael Hutter. I've taken a lot of Matt Cross, a lot of Johnny Gargano, Colt Cabana, DZ, Sima Zion, DJZ. My favorites now are Jock Sampson and Mance Warner. I like them because they're very animate in the ring.
Wow.
I shoot for, in Cleveland, I shoot for Absolute Intense Wrestling. They're probably one of the finest indie organizations going right now, where they're getting a lot of press, a lot of publicity too.
Yeah. Yeah,
I grew with them. I started with them. I was asked by one of the promoters. He's since passed away. There was two guys promoting, John Thorne and Chris Bryan, Chandler Biggins, and Biggins died unexpectedly, and he was the one that actually got me into it. He asked me if I could take pictures. They had another photographer at the time. He was a professional, but there was other people involved. Not going to get into the politics of AIW, but that's how I got started.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now, one of the questions that David had, he wanted to ask you tonight, and I told him I'd go ahead and ask it for him since he wasn't able to be with us tonight. Is that what caught your eye on deathmatch wrestler Nikuro Butcher on catching photos of his deathmatch work, and what do you like about today's world of deathmatch wrestling?
I think those guys are up over the top. I mean, it's amazing some of the stunts they do. I saw Necro Butcher up at an AIW show, and I was actually in the barrier when they had that death match. There was him, Drake Younger, and another guy named John Thorne, who's a promoter. It was one of the wildest matches. I thought I was part of the match. That's how crazy it was.
Wow. That is neat. That is definitely neat. Deathmatch wrestling, it is something, man, especially with CCW, with what they do and stuff, with the hardcore stuff. And I love watching hardcore wrestling. Because it's just, you don't know what's going to happen, and just the spots they set up, which is just, like eye-taking, and it's like, wow.
The first hardcore guy I really took, let's see, trying to think of some of the, I took pictures of Pondo early in his year, Toby Klein, and who's the other crazy guy? He'll come to me. But I took a lot of these guys, I think it was even before Combat Zone was in its infancy.
Mm-hmm.
And but they've sort of toned down too. Hasn't Combat Zone toned down? There's another group of guys out there now, run by Nick Gage.
Yeah.
I forget what promotion that's called.
Yeah. There's also VOW. That's one too.
Oh, VOW.
Yeah, VOW.
Vicious Outcast Wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, they were pretty straight for a while, but then they started doing stuff, real crazy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved ECW back in the day with what Paul Heyman did with ECW, Eastern Championship Wrestling, and what he turned it into. There were some really great moments and stuff. And even Paul said he basically took what they were doing in New Japan over in Japan there and just brought it over to the States, and just turned it into, what it became and known for and stuff,
Well, Heyman was really a genius. If TNA would have kept him, wouldn't have messed with him, they would have never went out of business.
Yeah.
He wanted to work a deal with Dixie Carter, and the other guy I saw early in his career, and he scared the bejesus out of me too, because you never knew what he was going to do, was New Jack.
New Jack. he had some crazy matches, man. He definitely did. He definitely did. I remember watching.
Yeah, go ahead.
I remember watching one of the pay-per-views. I'm trying to remember, because once I got the WWE Network, I went back and started watching when the network first came available, and after I signed up, and I went back and started trying to look at all the content that they already had ready to go for on launch. And they had a lot of ECW stuff, and I know I checked out a couple of the pay-per-views that they had, ECW did. And one of the pay-per-views, I can't remember off the top of my head, it was New Jack was doing I think it was a handicap or triple threat match, and the whole time he just picked up anything that was available and he just used it, and the crowd went nuts, man. The crowd went nuts. As soon as he went out there, he went nuts, and it was awesome.
You know who he wrestled first? He wrestled for Smoky Mountain Wrestling, run by Jim Cornette.
Yep.
And he was with Mustafa, and they would do crazy stuff. I mean, and Cornette ate it up because it drew people in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it did. It did. Out of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, you had Lance Storm and Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho was actually made a name for himself in Japan, and then Jim Cornette got Chris over here in the States, and Chris wrestled the company he first started wrestling in the States was Smoky Mountain. There, him and Lance Storm.
Another side, like Jim Ross used to do their announcing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good old JR.
Good old JR. But that's where New Jack really cut his teeth doing there, and then he went with Heyman. And Heyman, like I say, Heyman used to lie to the wrestlers, but he never lied to the fans. That's the story I got.
Yeah, I remember watching one of the ECW documentaries there, and yeah, he basically, when he had the wrestlers actually doing things, and Heyman fired his own mother when she was working for him, towards the end. I thought that was crazy. I don't know if you heard that story.
Yeah, the first time I remember seeing Heyman was with WCW. He had that big phone he carried. It looked like a brick.
Yeah.
They hit people with it.
Yeah, Polly Dangerously, man. Yeah, the Dangerous Alliance. That was some good wrestling back then. What do you miss about how wrestling was back in that time there in the 80s compared to now? What you would see on TV?
If you look at some of there was a lot more going on as far as territories at that time, and the shows seemed a lot better. I look at some of the old cards, and they were stacked compared to what it is today.
Yeah. With
the talent.
Yeah, it's the talent. I like the talent how it was back then, because a lot of the talent back then, the stories was great. You had really good stories. You had really good build-ups for the stories. You had characters that fans cared about. You had faces that people cheered and loved. You had heels that people booed and hated. There was kayfabe back then, which don't exist now.
Yeah.
That's
one
thing
what I liked
missing
about it too. Vince ruined that, really.
Yeah.
Vince ruined kayfabe. I mean, there are people, and still today, there's some people still believe it's for real.
Mm-hmm. New Japan, they keep kayfabe alive right there, and they do it so well, especially when Wrestle Kingdom, this past Wrestle Kingdom this year with Jericho and Kenny Omega, that right there was pulled out of the promo, the setup, and everything before their match. That was reminded me, and a lot of people even mentioned it reminded them of an old like Mid-South wrestling promotion where Jericho shows up out of nowhere and he takes the belt and he hits Kenny upside the head with it, and Kenny shows color, and he beats him, senselessly. And then afterwards, with the interview, he just basically, just plays up this big heel, and the angle and everything of that was shot just fantastic. I loved it. I love how they did that. And
well, Jericho was trained by the Hearts, and he knew how to work. Mm-hmm. That's what they're missing today with a lot of the guys. A lot of the guys today, they choreograph their matches.
Yeah.
You go into a venue where, even if it's an indie show and it's a dull match, well, if you're choreographing it, it's going to stay dull. If you're a worker, you're going to find something that's going to work the crowd.
Yeah.
And that's what I miss about the old style wrestling. It's the workers.
Yeah, the old style workers. Yeah, they definitely did. They did work the crowd. The heels. That's what I loved, was how the heels worked the crowd. They get in there and they would dominate, almost destroy and decimate the face, and the crowd would boo them, and then they'd play off of that and say, what? It's like now, they would play up and they would heckle the crowd back at the crowd at what they were doing to the face, and then the face would make that comeback and then build that momentum, and it ended up hitting the finish, and then that was it, and then the heel would get mad. It was like, it's like, this ain't over yet. And it's like, well, next week you come back, we'll see what he does next week. You don't get that no more. You really do not get that no more, especially on the main product of WWE. You don't really get to see that much anymore.
We were talking about favorite wrestlers. I do like the lady wrestlers.
Yeah.
I still have a passion for shooting lady matches, and there's some good women wrestlers out there today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have a good trainer down at NXT. It's Sarah Del Rey. She definitely knows how to wrestle, and the quality of wrestling in the WWE has gone up 1,000% since she's been training the gals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, NXT. I love what they've done with NXT. What I love with how Triple H has put NXT, he basically made a brand within a brand, and what they're doing there at the Performance Center in Orlando, yeah, definitely.
Sometimes their shows are better than the WWE shows.
Yeah, they're takeover pay-per-views. So far this year, my favorite feud, one story that I was invested in and still invested in, is Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. I'm invested in that because there's always something that they're always pulling out that makes you want to come back for more. And I'm still wanting to know who took Aleister Black out. I want to know who did that. You see, I'm invested in that, And then Shayna Baszler, will she get the NXT Women's Championship
I saw
back?
Shayna in her early, when she first came in to where I was shooting, and I told her, I says, I just talked to her probably maybe about 6 months ago, and I says, what the heck is NXT not doing, not bringing you up there? And when you know it, she's ready to go. Wait till she tags Ronda Rousey.
Now, that's something I'm interested in now. Okay, the way they've made Shayna Baszler right now in NXT, how she's dominant, and she's basically the top heel in the women's division right now. Okay, now when she leaves and heads to the main roster, now is she going to be friends with Ronda? Because Ronda's a face, out of the 4 horsewomen in UFC right there. Because Shayna's part of that. Now, is Shayna are they gonna make her a face when she comes to the main roster, or are they gonna have Shayna go after Ronda and then build a story on top of that? You see, that's the thing, because they made Shayna in NXT this dominant force, and they built her really well. And now the question is, if when she does go to the main roster, is she going to go take out Ronda Rousey, or is she basically going to side with her and they're going to make her a face? I'm interested in that right there.
I'd still say they'd make a great tag team.
Yeah. If they
whether they're both going to be heels or both going to be faces, doesn't make any difference.
Yeah,
they're both MMA gals, and they both are the real deals. They can actually, they could probably wrestle men.
they could. I mean, yeah, they came from a contact sport as MMA, UFC. They came from that, and yeah, they can take a bump and they can take a hit. If it's real, like the real deal, they could take it, because that's what they did. They've done, for so many years. Yeah. That would be an interesting tag team.
There's a lot more women trying to make it in the wrestling business today, too.
Yeah.
There's a lot more talent out there trying, and there's,
Yeah, I'd have to say, Wayne, that women's wrestling has come a long way from back what I remember and stuff. I was a teenager during the Attitude Era, during the late 90s. I was just almost out of high school, or just graduated high school, when the Attitude Era started taking full effect in the late 90s there with the Monday Night Wars. I remember that really well. Sitting there watching the first hour of Nitro, and then flipping it over to 9 o'clock, flipping it over to WWE, and then watching that, and then going back and watching the taped WCW that I taped, or my friends would tape. I remember watching that. Now, the thing I remembered was how the women's wrestling was different, and I would have to say that I did enjoy Lita, Trish Stratus, when they debuted and you started seeing them on TV. They put on some really good matches there, and I was glad that they did. It was silly that them having the bra and panties match. I mean, well, actually, at that age, it wasn't that bad to look at, but still, they went away from it finally. It took them a while, and got to just be in wrestling. And one I'd have to say, one of my favorite that I watched last year in the Mae Young Classic, and I've watched footage of on YouTube, would have to be Tully Blanchard's daughter, Tessa.
Tessa. I saw Tessa wrestle when she was 18 years old, and she had it together. She was trained by her dad, Tully, and her grandfather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she definitely does come
Joe Blanchard.
Yeah. And
some guy, and this is funny, at one of the venue I work at, he's saying she was such a bitch, and I said, well, she was a heel. That's what she was supposed to make you feel like.
yeah. I mean, yeah, she definitely is. She's supposed to. Yeah, that's her job.
That's what a heel's supposed to do.
Yeah, they're supposed to
bring heat.
Yeah, they're supposed to make you feel bad, man. They definitely are.
If anybody who wants to become a heel have them watch pictures of Buddy Rogers, Roddy Piper, and I'm trying to think the other guy who was the NWA champion. Oh, jeez. It's a terrible thing as you get old, you know. But anyway, if you watch those people film on YouTube of these heels and how they could bring heat.
Yeah. Yeah, they could definitely bring heat. My father, I would watch growing up. I would watch wrestling with him, and I would watch him watching Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes. He loved Dusty Rhodes. He hated Ric Flair. I mean, he didn't hate him, but the character, it made him basically cuss at the TV what Flair was doing on TV. He would cuss at the TV at Ric Flair, and he loved Dusty Rhodes, Harley Race. Those were his favorites there. And my brother
Hardy was the other heel I was trying to think of.
Harley Race.
Hardy was telling the story. He got stabbed by a fan. I mean, walking up the aisle. He got heat so bad in the match.
Yeah, back then they would get a lot of heat, and it was, I mean, people, it goes back to the kayfabe. People believe that, and they would, like, there was a story, someone was talking about Bobby Heenan. He wanted to, run and jump in the car real quick, and it was like right after kayfabe was, people were kind of figuring things out. And it was, I think it was Mean Gene was talking about it. Bobby was, they called a match, or called an event, and Bobby was telling Gene, he's like, get your bags, get them ready right here with us, and we're gonna jump in the car, because once this is over, they're coming after us. And Gene's like, no one's coming after us. And Bobby, acted like, yeah, they definitely are. He's gonna get heat, because he was getting heat, and they're going to come after him. And, yeah, they...
Let me tell you a funny story. One of the local wrestlers, one of the indie guys, they had a show in Central Ohio, and he brought so much heat that the sheriffs had to escort him out of town. Even in this day and age.
Wow.
For his own safety.
Oh,
I
man.
still tease him about it today. But that's great if you can get people that riled up.
Yeah, definitely. What are some of the, now, meeting a lot of talent and meeting a lot of people in the business, what are some stories that you can mention, some of your favorites?
I was trying to think of this. One of the great stories, and it was actually authenticated by two people. Mm-hmm. There was a wrestler called Playboy Buddy Landell. He was wrestling at Cleveland All Pro. And evidently in the match, he got flipped up. And when he came down, he had crapped his pants. And when he came down on the ring, he left a big stain on the mat. Well, in the entire match, everybody avoided it. The main event was Jerry Lynn versus Chris Hamrick. And this was authenticated by Jerry Lynn, because I talked to him. Uh-huh. And Jerry said that Chris purposely rubbed him through that stain on the mat at the end of the show. I thought that was a funny story.
Wow. Oh man, that must have been something, man. That must have been something. I was watching that documentary about Andre the Giant. Did you catch that documentary?
No, I didn't, but I've heard a lot of Andre stories, because I've known people that wrestled Andre. Yeah. Before you tell the thing of the documentary, if Andre liked you, he'd treat you like gold. But if he didn't like you, he'd beat the living daylights out of you. True story.
Yeah. That's what they mentioned on that documentary.
And he got insulted if you paid for anything. when he took you out, he paid for everything. Same thing. Ric Flair was like that, but Andre was like that too. When he took the boys out, he picked up all the tab.
Yeah.
You can go on with Andre there.
Yeah, that you ever get a chance to see it, I definitely would. I recommend that you would definitely go, check it out when you ever get time, because it's a really good documentary and just so much that Andre went through is just.
I like the
amazing.
Ric Flair documentary. I thought it was sad, but
Yes,
I loved Ric Flair because he was such a great as far as cutting promos and stuff. Him and Dusty Rhodes.
yes,
I mean, were two of the greatest. I have another story. There's a fellow by the name of Bob Johnson who worked for Stu Hart. And he worked for Stampede Wrestling. He used to set the ring up, and he used to pick up the people at the airport. And he said he picked up Bobby Heenan a couple times, and
right.
at one he said he picked up Bobby Heenan. He went up to Bobby Heenan one time, and he says, "Hey, Bobby, how you doing? You remember me? I picked you up at the airport." And Bobby says, in Calgary. And he says, "I've never been in Calgary." He says, "Yeah, you wrestled at, you were with Stampede Wrestling." "I was never with Stampede Wrestling." He ribbed him for 30 years. He finally admitted to him before he passed away that he was just joking with him all those years. That he didn't recognize him.
Wow, that is great. Wow. Now I'm gonna try to find it here. Let's see. Okay. Okay. There you go. Now one of the things with everything going on right now with the wrestling, we got the Mae Young Classic going on the WWE Network, with all the events coming up with the WWE this Saturday. They got the Super Showdown, and then in November we got the Royal Gym, or the Grand Gym pay-per-view, and Survivor Series, of course. But on the network, I enjoyed it last year. We talked about it before we went live. I enjoyed the Mae Young Classic last year because of the talent that came in. And this year, I've really enjoyed it. Now, one of the matches I was watching, I think it was like the second week I was watching, and during the last match of the night, right before they went off the air, they had one more match. And during that match, I happened to notice when they were talking about the story with the rivalry between the two wrestlers, a picture happened to show up of one of them with a broken nose. And I happened to notice that on the bottom of the picture, down at the bottom, they gave credit to the photo to Wayne Palmer. Can you tell me about that right there?
I got approached by a producer. We're friends on Facebook. I didn't know he was a producer with WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "We want to use a couple pictures of," and he explained the match between Mia Yim and Sienna, she had wrestled. They had met each other at Girls' Night Out in Cleveland at AIW.
Yeah.
And at that match, Allison broke her nose. Got her nose broken. I was taking pictures. I got pictures of her all bloodied up. And they wanted to make it a rivalry thing, so they took a couple pictures off the jacket, and they signed me to a contract.
No way.
I had to sign releases, and actually now I'm a vendor for WWE, so if they want to use any more pictures, all they have to do is contact me. And
that is
that
awesome.
Came right out of the blue. I never thought my pictures would go anywhere.
That is cool. That is unexpected right there. You know, just out of the blue, they just called you and stuff. That's great.
The funny thing was, I looked up the disc. I had more pictures, but there was the timeline which he got me. You know, this happened so quick that actually, when I signed the release papers, they had already put them up on the screen. But I had given them an oral verbal contract. I would sign releases on it, and they compensated me for it. So that's another great thing.
That's good that they reached out to you, they contacted you, and they were interested in your work and stuff. That is great. I love that.
Well, the thing is, I have a lot more pictures of the gals that are in NXT and the guys too. I got pictures of Johnny Gargano. I took promo pictures, and he was just a young guy.
Oh wow!
I've never posted them, which is a good thing.
Yeah. That is neat. Have you contacted Johnny and actually shared the pictures, and have you given and shown talent that you've taken pictures of? Have you?
Oh yeah, I sent pictures of Corey Graves to WWE, to NXT. They wanted some pictures. I never heard what happened to him. And there's a gal, she wrestled as Athena. I forget what her name is now in the WWE, but that's not what she was called in the Indies.
Mm-hmm. Athena. Yeah, and I can't think myself.
And I've heard that they actually, and on NXT, they've shown a couple of my pictures.
Yeah, they definitely they definitely did. They've shown a couple of your pictures. I love that.
But this is actually a good thing that happened now, because now if they use any of my stuff, they can pay me for it.
Yeah,
pay to play.
Hey,
that was nice.
That's always good. That's always good. I have a childhood friend I've known for years, who grew up across the street from me. He's into photography, and he's done it for years, and it's finally paying off for him because he's being featured in magazines here and there and stuff, and he's always posting stuff on social media. He's always posting stuff on his Instagram of pictures and stuff and local models and stuff that he takes pictures of and puts out there. He puts his work out there, which is fantastic. I let him know, that he's come a long way, and his resume is building, and it's just really, really good, and I'm happy for him.
I started doing this as a hobby. I didn't expect to make any money out of it. Everybody has little hobbies. Well, this was my hobby. I love wrestling. I love photography. So it's the best of both worlds.
Oh yeah.
I met some famous photographers. I met George Napolitano a couple of years ago. He's the WWE photographer.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
and I feel my pictures are just as well. I'm using about the same equipment as they are too. It's just getting the right shot, being at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, at that time, the indies, even today, a lot of people don't take pictures at the indie shows.
Yeah. Me?
Now with the cell phones, you can, but,
mm-hmm.
It's still difficult because the cell phone won't take a moving, it's hard to take an action shot with a cell phone.
Yeah. The phone I have, I mean, for example, I'll hold it up here to the camera. Yeah, this phone here, this is the Galaxy Prime 2. Honestly, the Samsung Galaxy Prime 2, I hate taking photos with this thing because I miss how the photos that I can take with my Galaxy Edge 6 is so much better. This phone right here, I hate taking pictures with it. I hate it because the quality is so terrible. They've ruined it, and I wish they would go back something like that right there. I hate taking pictures with that. And if I do take pictures with it, I just use it from like far distance. And even at the wrestling event I mentioned I was at in June, I took pictures with that thing. The pictures came out, like a lot of them came out horrible, and just trying to do that still shots. With the Galaxy Prime or the Galaxy Edge I had before, that can take really good, the options on it had it where you can take really like fast motion pictures, and they turn out great. This one, I hate it. I do. It's horrible. I mean, I agree with you. Photos, like having a camera and having the equipment and taking the picture just at the right moment and the right time, that you can take that great picture, and a picture tells a story. With this, I wouldn't even dare.
Well, the other thing is there's when you were growing up, I don't know how old you are, but there was wrestling magazines. How many wrestling magazines are on the racks anymore?
Exactly. I'm 30. I'm 39. I'll be 40 next week.
But even 20 years ago, there was, magazines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the magazines and stuff. I remember talking about cameras and photography. I remember Polaroids. My dad had the Polaroid cameras. Where the Polaroids, you snap them and then the picture pop out.
They've come back though.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad's ruined a lot of pictures when he was alive and taking pictures. We Christmas time, family get together. He'd sit there and take the picture, hold it up there, and be like, "All right, everyone, smile." And there's his finger. He'd snap, get that finger and away. We're sitting there looking, and we're like, "All right, there's my brothers, there's my sister, and what's that?" And then someone's like, "Oh, that's her cousin Thumb. He's in all the pictures."
I got another interesting story while
Okay.
I got it in my mind.
All
You
right.
know who Tony Schiavone is?
Yes.
He used to be the announcer on WCW.
Mm-hmm.
I saw him in Charlotte a couple years ago at a fan fest.
Right.
And people asked if they had any good Ric Flair stories.
Uh-huh.
He said he had one, and he told this. He said, first time he was invited up to Ric Flair's, like a party.
Right.
He didn't know Flair, and he was new in the business. And somebody says, "Hey, Rick wants to talk to you." So since he's in the bedroom over there, just go in there. And he says he opened the door, and Ric Flair's standing there completely naked. Said Flair used to like to do this, and Ric Flair would walk around naked all the time. But he
Oh, wow.
Flair is quite a character. I mean, there's like thousands of stories out there. I know J.J. Dillon real well, and he says that's true. He says we partied like rock stars, and Ric Flair paid for everything too.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine.
And Rick would attract the women. He said it cost him his first marriage.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was the limousine dealing jet. Damn, I can't believe I'm forgetting that. His slogan. I mean, he was jet flying, limousine riding. Son of a gun. Woo. I mean, that was Flair. He was that character. One thing I liked about in that documentary, I thought was one of my favorite parts in the documentary on Ric Flair, was when he went to therapy. He told him all the intake and everything and stuff that he took during the day, and the therapist was like, "What? You should be dead." And by the end of the session, the therapist was laying on the couch, and Flair was asking him what his problems were.
Well, that's how those wrestlers lived in those days.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the other thing they did that other documentary. Did you see 350 Wrestling?
No,
documentary?
I didn't get to see that. Robin Nielsen, he has a show on the Podcast City Network, Wrestle Popcast, and he got to talk with the producer and director of that. And I haven't. been able to get to see it yet.
I talked to the producer, I think, or the director. I forget his name.
Mm-hmm.
But the funny thing, I was at the movie theater. There was only about 8 people at the theater, and there was a scene where Ray Apollo is dressed as Doink. And I'm looking up there, and I see myself standing in the background in the movie.
Mm-mm. Did you?
I want to get the a copy if the DVD is ever made. I talked to the producer. He said that he made a mistake, and when they started filming that, he said they should have done more time at Cauliflower Alley Club in the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame,
Yes.
interviewing wrestlers.
Yeah.
Because there was more wrestlers go to those.
Yeah.
To the Cauliflower. And where he photographed that was at the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Okay. That's something that I asked. I believe it was me or David on David's Deathmatch Wrestle podcast. We have Patricia on the Cauliflower Alley Club. Can you mention and talk about that? What that event is?
Well, the Cauliflower Alley Club is it's open to fans and wrestlers both. Before, when it first started out, it was boxers and wrestlers.
Right.
That's where they got the name, because boxers had cauliflower ears, even the wrestlers did at that time. But the boxers didn't keep it up. There was a fellow by the name of Mike Bazerky, who was their first president, kept the organization going.
Right.
And they opened it up to fans back, I forget what year. They used to meet in Los Angeles so I can have a dinner. And then they moved it to Las Vegas. And that's when things started happening. People would come to Las Vegas, and now it's like it's about a 3-day event. Actually, the purpose of Cauliflower is a benevolent society. It's to help the wrestlers that need assistance. And I've known a couple of the wrestlers that have received assistance. Brian Blair is their president now, and the Cauliflower Alley Club is held. We'll get together on Sunday is the first day. They usually have a wrestling match, but then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are the days of the meetings.
Right.
They have seminars. They have a hospitality room where you could meet the people. A lot of the wrestlers don't. You could go up and take pictures and get autographs with them. They don't even charge you a nickel. It's not like going to a fan fest. And they have a wrestling show. It's run by Vendetta Pro with a couple other people. Billy Blade out of California runs the wrestling part. It's Sunday and Monday. Monday night. Monday they have like the hospitality room where you book. Then they have seminars Tuesday and Wednesday where they have a bologna banquet on Tuesday night because of the hard years. When the story is when the guys said they didn't make that kind of money, so they would buy a pound of bologna, slice it up, and that's what they would eat.
Yeah.
And then they'd have the regular full banquet on Wednesday. But they have a lot of other activities going. They have a strut off. They have bowling. They have cribbage, and it's just a camaraderie.
Right.
I've got in with the Glow Girls. We went out to when we were in Las Vegas this last time. We went out to a dive bar on one of the nights.
Which Glow Girls was with you?
Roxy Astor, and Patricia Summerlin.
Yes.
Were the two Glow Girls. And usually other couple glow girls that go are Jeannie Basone, who's Hollywood,
Mm-hmm.
Cheryl Russo, who's Lightning. They go to Cauliflower. MTV, Eileen,
Uh-huh.
she goes. Lil Egypt, Angelina goes to
Yes.
Cauliflower. So there's a whole mixture. And Debbie Miller has gone. She won the award one year. She was the actual true wrestler with the Glow Girls. She was actually the only bona fide wrestler, but she helped train them with Guerrero.
Oh, yeah.
So that's basically what Cauliflower Alley Club is. Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame is in Wichita Falls, Texas. That's quite a museum.
Mm-hmm.
They have their banquets in middle of May, and it's not as big, but it's just as much fun for me because you sit down, talk to the people. I got to meet Vampira Furpo and Bob Roop. And a few other wrestlers.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. I'd love to attend.
And then I went to
like
the
that.
third Hall of Fame, which is in Waterloo, Iowa, they had a nice banquet too.
Yeah.
But actually, Cauliflower is the one that raises money.
Yeah.
For wrestling.
That's a good cause. That's a good cause, and
I'm
it
telling
helps.
anybody that's a wrestler out there that's listening, you out once in your lifetime to go out to Las Vegas. The banquets usually, you never know who you're going to run into. I met Chris Christopherson there one year, and Steve Austin came in one year.
Yep. One of my favorites right there is Stone Cold. I love Stone Cold.
And he was very nice.
Yeah. I heard he's really nice guy, really genuine guy.
Most of the people in the business, they try to make it like a wrestling family,
Mm-hmm.
even though they're out there that they want the illusion that they're killing each other, they're hurting each other, but that's the illusion they're creating.
Yeah.
But sometimes they do get hurt. I mean, granted, it's a very contact sport. I mean,
Yeah. It is. I mean, just some of the bumps and everything that they take and what they do in the ring. I mean, they get out there and they entertain fans that keep up and that follow them, and they do it for the fans, and they do it because they love it, and they love to entertain, and they just love doing what they do. They do.
yeah,
They
and
definitely do.
the dues you have to be a member to go to Cauliflower, and I think the dues are like $25.
Okay.
And the banquet is usually, for the banquets, it's about $100. Same
Right.
thing for the other museums. The same price for the banquets are about the same price.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that. What it would it cost and what do you have to do to get in, but it's
And the rooms are cheap too.
oh yeah.
At all three venues, the rooms are very inexpensive.
Oh yeah. That's not bad. Now, 2019 is coming around the corner, Wayne. What do you have planned for 2019, or do you just take one day at a time and just, or do you have
going
any
to the Cauliflower? I already booked my room.
for
And
2019?
I just haven't booked they haven't come out with the banquet stuff yet, so I'll worry
Okay.
about that later. I'm going to definitely want to go to Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame because there's people that come once a year. I get to, we get together and have a good time.
Right.
I might drive out to Waterloo. It's only 9 hours from my house. So not bad. I'll motor this year.
Yeah, that's
Our people are running a show at WrestleCon this year.
really.
AIW in New Jersey. I might not go to WrestleMania. I just don't know about the weather. It's going to be at the stadium. I mean, it could snow for crying out loud. It's in April.
Yeah,
I mean, you could have a nor'easter come in, and what would they do then?
Now,
I'm not trying to be smart ass.
No, you're not. You're not, because what I understand, I believe it was WrestleMania 29 when they had it up there in New York, New Jersey, right there. They had the ring where basically at that time of the year it was still cold. It was still cold out there, and they had a heated ring for the wrestlers. You were up in the ring there, and it felt like they had it. I believe the temperature was running about just normal, but outside and stuff, it was still cold.
I was at WrestleCon that year. I went to Metuchen, New Jersey. They had Pro Wrestling Syndicate. Had 2 back-to-back shows. That was where New Jack wrestled his last show. He wrestled Necro Butcher.
Oh, no way.
Night.
No way. That is neat.
And they had a lot of the wrestlers come in for meet and greets there. Bret Hart was there, and Liger was there, and Aces and Eights at that time when TNA was going on, and the Rock and Roll Express was there. And I think of people off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the great trainers of all times came up and I met him there, was Ron Hutchinson. I don't know whether you've heard of Ron. He's trained people like Gail Kim, Sin Bodhi, Trish Stratus, Beth Phoenix. He's trained champions. He's a trainer. He used to train in Toronto. He's writing a book right now, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I'm going to have to.
And I want to go out to California to see the Glow Girls.
Yeah. I'd love to go out to California and see.
They said they're supposed to have some sort of function, so hopefully that'll work out.
It will, because Glow is blown. The original Glow Girls, a lot of people has searched them out now and realized that the Glow, the show on Netflix, it's based off of what the original Glow Girls went through and everything. And people are finding out that there was a actual TV show called Glow back in the there was.
I didn't watch. I told the Glow Girls this. I wasn't a big fan of the show. I didn't watch it that much. I didn't watch a lot of TV.
Right.
For the only reason I met them was one of my buddies said, "Hey, let's go on a cruise. There's a cruise with the Glow Girls." So that's how I got to meet them.
Right.
And friends ever since. But one of the issues is a lot of the female wrestlers look down upon the Glow Girls because they weren't true wrestlers. But you have to consider the concept of the show. They were just all models and aspiring actresses. They were trained to be wrestlers. They said they used to train 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And some of the moves they made, I mean, you look at them, they said they got hurt doing the wrestling moves.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely did. I mean,
I'm happy. A lot of times my concept is a lot of times you don't get a second chance in life when things pass by you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
this is an
you don't.
opportunity for some of the gals to jump and use their name.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely
make money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, in 2019, you plan on going out to California? Or what?
Yeah, at some point in time.
Some point in time, 2019.
I haven't I haven't mapped that out yet.
Yeah,
But I know definitely Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame is in May. Cauliflower's in May.
Mm-hmm.
WrestleCon is in April.
Yes.
And the Hall of Fame in Iowa is in July. So
Right.
whenever I get an opportunity to do what I'm going to do, I'll do it.
That's good. That is awesome.
Depends on what plans the ladies from Glow are planning. I know one of the factions is planning a cruise, but it was conflicting with one of the other events I was going to go to. So
Yeah.
there's another group of Glow girls that are doing a cruise too.
Right.
I think Hollywood had a cruise going. She announced on Facebook today that the cruise is on, but they didn't announce the date.
Yeah, I believed I seen that today. I believe I did see that, with her announcing that, and especially on Twitter. And speaking of social media, what where can people find Wayne Palmer at on social media?
And Wayne Palmer I have a Facebook page, Wayne Palmer.
Is that the?
And you don't have to be friends to look at the pictures and to. In fact, there's any wrestlers out there that want pictures. I give the pictures. I'll send discs to the wrestlers. I don't charge them anything.
Nice.
I do it as a love of the business, and I know those guys don't make that kind of money.
Right.
If they make any money at all. Really?
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
People don't realize them. These guys, they don't. They're lucky if they get a hot dog.
Yeah.
I'm being facetious, but it's only the guys in the upper tier that are making the money. Like once you make it to Ring of Honor, pays better, and on the bigger venues.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. It definitely does. It definitely does. You only have the Facebook. You don't have Twitter, Wayne?
No, I don't. I don't fool around Twitter. No,
you don't.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. Yeah, I was just asking because I know it's when I looked you up on Google there, I was Googling you. I came across Wayne Palmer is. There's a lot of people named Wayne Palmer. But looking at the Wayne Palmer who does wrestling photography, that right there, what pops up is just a Facebook. I didn't know if you had a Twitter or not.
Yeah, that's how you'd find me. Google it under wrestling.
Okay. I wanna.
My buddy, who lives in New Jersey right now. He moved to New Jersey. Was going to create a website for me, and we were going to put it all on a website.
Oh, that's great.
Never did materialize.
Huh. Wow. Oh. I know.
The only thing I'm really sorry, I lost about a year and a half worth of pictures. I had a corrupted disk drive, and they couldn't save it. So.
Oh man.
The only thing, there's pictures from part of 2014 and 2015 I don't have, but I have everything cataloged according to date, sitting up there. I'm just looking at all the binders of pictures I have. I don't know. I must have 1 million pictures. I don't know who I'm going to leave these to whenever I decide to give this up, because there's a lot of history on those discs.
Right. Yeah, that'd be something right there. It's like it's like, who am I going to give this to? It's like me. I have a bunch of pictures. I have like on one of my backup hard drives. I have a bunch of pictures of my daughter. The pictures the night she was born, the morning she was born, just about almost all the way up till now. And it's like, what the heck am I going to do with this stuff, man? My wife's like, man, it's like we get so much. I was like, yeah. I was like, we can, track it.
Came handy for me when we needed pictures for a wrestling show.
Yeah. That's that's pretty much true. Well, I want to thank you for taking time out tonight and coming on and chatting with me. I'm sorry David wasn't able to join us tonight on this podcast here.
Is he the one that's more into the other style of wrestling?
Yeah, he's more in the hardcore death match.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of hardcore stuff. We didn't talk a lot of it, but I've seen a lot of hardcore matches.
Yeah. Yeah, he's more into it with his podcast. He's more into it, but he slowly turned me on to stuff that's in the indies with deathmatch wrestling, and I've enjoyed some of the stuff that he's messaged me and sent me and said, "Hey, check this out" and everything, and I love it. But I see
one of the big deathmatch guys in Cleveland all the time is Nick Gage. He can actually wrestle too. He's not only does the deathmatch stuff,
right?
But they get pretty crazy too. But they don't swing out do all the real crazy stuff.
Right. Well, he has the best of both worlds there, man. If you look at it, yeah. I mean, he could do the hardcore and do the wrestling. That's pretty talented right there. It definitely is.
Well, I appreciate you taking time to listen to my bannering for an hour or so. I don't know how long we've been, hour and a half.
Yeah, hour 30 minutes, and it's been a really good hour and 30 minutes. And
we could have probably talked for 5 or 6 hours on the stuff I've done and seen over the years.
Oh yeah.
I just have to get it out of my brain. For it.
I'm definitely gonna have to ask you to come back on again, man, sometime in the future.
Yeah, I'll be happy to.
Mm-hmm.
You just name a subject and just give me a heads up what you want to talk about.
Okay.
I'll have a chance to think about it.
Yeah, I enjoyed having just this random conversation with you, and I just love.
Yeah, I went all over the place, but it was nice and random.
Yeah.
I like talking wrestling. That's why, that's one thing about going to a wrestling match.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what social, economic background you're from. You have a common bond with the people at the shows.
Exactly. I want to thank you for coming on and talking with you again, and actually, having you come on and just talk about stories, talk about what you do with photography. You can check Wayne Palmer out on Facebook. And you can check out much more of everything that Wayne does with photography on his Facebook account, on his social media account there on Facebook. Thank you so much for coming on. And if there's any last shout-outs or anything you want to say?
Last shout-out, any of my friends out listening, thank you for listening to me. And any of the Glow Girls, say I love you all and hope to see you in the near future. That's all I have to say.
All right. Well, thank you, Wayne. Have a good night, and
thank you very much.
Oh, no problem. We'll talk again.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Wayne Palmer, wrestling photographer. He's done a lot in his career, and he's talked with and he's captured a lot in the wrestling business. And fantastic guy. Glad to get to talk with him again. The first time I talked with him was on Deathmatch Wrestle podcast with David C. Russell. I enjoyed talking with him when he called in, when David had Patricia Summerlin on, aka Sunny the California Girl, from one of the original Glow wrestlers. Now, one thing I want to mention is that, well, I got an incoming call coming in, but you know what? They can wait. You're viewing right now. You can wait because there's something that needs to be addressed right now on the podcast. I wish they would quit calling me right now, or they need to call me. So right now, I'm waiting for Chris Carnage to call me right now. that he planned on calling me tonight to talk about some stuff that's going on with Podcast City Network. Right there, you just heard the person calling me is David Russell trying to call me. You can wait, David, because right now I have on the line right now the one and only Chris Carnage. What's up, man?
Hey, fans. What's going on?
Not much, man. Not much. What's been happening with you, man? You've been MIA from the Everett Lee Show for quite a while.
Well, you know how I do. If I'm away, that means there's all kinds of work afoot. I've been working behind the scenes on all kinds of things for the one and only Podcast City Network. Even right now, as we speak, I'm currently just outside a secret location where I am with Seven Kingdoms as they prepare for their upcoming tour.
Oh, no way. No freaking way.
That's right. Skirting a couple of little words here and there, that might just, I don't know, appear on a future episode of The Chris Carnage Show.
That would be interesting. That definitely would be interesting, man, to see that footage and hear something from Seven Kingdoms, man. Yeah, you're hanging out with Camden today, and apparently what's going to go on with the Chris Carnage show, man? What the heck's happening? People's asked me, Chris Carnage, what the hell's going on with Chris Carnage? So, Chris, go for it.
Well, I tell you what, the Chris Carnage show is going to be coming back heavy. I know I've been saying it for a while, but you know what? Running your own network is not an easy thing, as you would know. So, at the end of the day, though, the Chris Carnage show will be returning within the next month with all new interviews, 2 brand new episodes I'm trying to have out by the time we hit November. It's going to be a lot of amazing stuff. I got some great interviews that are going to be lined up. And you know what? Let's go ahead and give something to the fans. We'll have an upcoming interview with the one and only brand new bassist of Seven Kingdoms, Tyler McDaniel. So that one's going to be the first one off rip. The other ones, though, you're going to have to check back later. So just make sure, though, that you stay tuned to podcastcity.net and all of our social media outlets for any updates on The Chris Carnage Show.
I love it, man. I love it.
But like I said, I have been working hard. So I actually have a large announcement to make.
Go for it. Let it rip.
So, upcoming only on Podcast City Network, we will be debuting our brand new sports show called Final Score, bringing you the very latest in NFL, NBA, NHL, and MLB action and news.
I am looking forward to it.
Oh, man, it's going to be great. It's going to be hosted by your very own Chris Carnage and a newcomer, Mr. Stephen Morelli. It's going to be a great show. Definitely make sure to stay tuned, and hopefully we'll be having that out sometime by the end of October or beginning of November. We actually start shooting this week. So make sure that you stay tuned to podcastcity.net and all of our social media outlets, and make sure you keep an eye out for the newest arrival, PCN's Final Score.
That is great, man. That is great. I can't wait for it, man. I cannot wait for it. Final Score coming to the Podcast City Network. That is freaking great. You and me have basically put together a great lineup of shows on the Podcast City Network, and I cannot wait to see this new addition to the network.
Well, speaking of all of our great shows, I have to extend to you, sir, a congratulations on 100 episodes of The Everett Lee Show.
Thank you. I think I should get myself an applause for that right there.
Yes, that is much deserved. Yes. I tell you what, though, you've been putting out some great stuff for a long time and have helped be part of the backbone of what is Podcast City Network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're definitely part of the backbone of Podcast City Network, just like everybody that's on the network and all this programming and the content that we put out on Podcast City Network, man. It's just going to get better. It's just going to, things are going to start rolling, especially us streaming on this new platform here on Twitch. All night, I've had people jump in and out on this podcast right here, And I cannot wait for once this thing really starts to roll that people jump in and see all the content that we have to offer on Podcasting Network.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we have a great lineup, including great podcasts like Wrestle Podcast, Deathmatch Wrestle Podcast, The EverettLeeShow, The Chris Carnage Show. We have even some new ones now. The second round in Florida, and we have the Phoenix. I can't remember the name of the show. I'm just
Phoenix
so pumped
Gate.
right now because I hear Seven Kingdoms. They're playing one of my favorite songs right now. I can hear it just outside. I tell you what, though, we have a lot of exciting things. And to think, Podcast City Network really only started with about, 5 shows?
Yeah.
And now here we're sitting here on the cusp of getting close to 20 shows. We have sponsors. We even have an official apparel provider. Like, we are making things happen. And honestly, a lot of thanks needs to go to you, sir, because all I bring to the table is some fancy glasses, a good-looking shirt, and a crazy voice. So at the end of the day, though, a lot of the work is thanks to you.
Yes. Well, thank you for that, and thank you for being a part of the network and reaching out. You're the one who basically got supporters of the show on Podcasting Network, and it wouldn't be because we wouldn't have that if it wasn't for you. And I got to thank you, sir, for what you do, Mr. Chris Carnage.
Well, I appreciate it, sir. I just do what I can to help keep the wheels rolling.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You definitely do. You keep those wheels rolling, man. And I keep those wheels rolling because I had one heck of a podcast tonight, man, having Wayne Palmer on and him talking about everything that he's done with wrestling, with, taking pictures of talent and just everything that he's done. And like he said, if you pick a topic, we can sit here and talk about it, maybe go on for 4 or 5 hours just talking about something. I was like, I love that. I love those type of guests that can keep on talking and put stuff out there for you, which is fantastic.
You got to think, we can sit back and just pick the minds of some of these great people that work in these amazing industries, especially the wrestling industry, just because it's such a tumultuous industry. To have someone that basically gets to see it through the lens of their camera, night in and night out, and it's just really special when you're able to get those kind of people on, those people that are the backbone to help get those images of what wrestling is out there. And considering the people he's been able to work with, it is truly special and amazing to have him as a guest on the show.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is to have someone like him as a guest on the show. And I love everything that's going on with all the shows that we have on the Podcasting Network, man. I mean, like Deathmatch Wrestle Podcast. Shout out to David C. Russell. He's been tuning in tonight. He wasn't able to come on the podcast and talk to Wayne Palmer. He wanted to, but with him feeling under the weather and stuff, he wanted me to give a shout out to you. And David will be back on tomorrow night for the Friday, starting on the new format of ELS Uncut Weekend Edition. Robin Nilsson from Wrestle Podcast is going to be joining David and myself. Let's hope David can be able to join us tomorrow night because the hijinks are going to be chaotic. ELS Uncut. Raw, uncut talent. Now the question is, am I going to be streaming it on Twitch, Chris, or should I stream it on the Everett Lee Show Facebook page? I don't know where to stream it at because it's going to be raw and raunchy.
Raw and raunchy. I don't know if that's for Facebook anymore. I think we might have to take that to our new hot platform.
Twitch here. May have to because you'll be able to see podcasts like this on Twitch and then later over on the Podcasting Network YouTube page. If I don't get flagged again for copyright material.
Sorry, please flirt with the edge too close sometimes.
I know. It had to be me. It had to be me to have 2 podcasts.
You're just such a damn rebel.
I know. Basically, you text me the other day. You're like, hey, or called me. You actually called me. I was like, uh-oh, Chris Carnage called me. This is pretty bad. It's like, did you check the email today on Podcasting Network? No. Well, you know what? Your 2 videos that you had back catalog on YouTube have been copyrighted, have copyright material, and they've been taken down. It's like, what?
Well, sometimes I have to deliver the bad news, and, I'm a guy who doesn't mind doing that. So, but it's okay, though. We got it all fixed. We got it all dealt with. We're trying to mind our P's and Q's, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we definitely will. We definitely will see what happens. Tomorrow night's going to be great because switching around new formats and everything with ELS Uncut becoming the Raw Uncut, what you loved at the Everett Lee Show, and now the Everett Lee Show, like you experienced tonight, viewers, that the Everett Lee Show is more of an interview podcast. Next week, Everett Lee Show will not be live because I'm going on vacation. I'm disappearing in the wilderness. Hopefully, I don't have to call Brady Gibson and Cody.
have the Bear Claw survival guys come save you.
I know. If I get a bear claw, then I can call them and figure out how to survive it. So, yeah, another one of our great shows. I know, but Chris, I'm about to sign off here. I'm gonna mention some supporters of the show as we talked about and close this podcast. And I want to thank you for calling in tonight and letting people know what's going on Podcasting Network and the Chris Carnage Show. I'm looking forward to hearing you talk with Tyler McDaniel and Seven Kingdoms.
Oh, yes. We'll have a lot of awesome interviews that'll be coming up, especially that one, which I'm most looking forward to as they are getting ready to go out on tour. So definitely some exciting things coming up. So everybody needs to make sure that they keep an eye out.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Chris, man. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you again.
All right, y'all have a great night. And as always, this is your official Chris Carnage signing off.
All right, peace. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Chris Carnage. And talking about sponsors and supporters of the show, that's one thing I want to talk about. Coming from Podcasting Network, over podcastcity.net for the latest episodes of the Everett Lee Show, ELS Uncut, Chris Carnage Show, Super Radio Brothers, Imaginarium, Mark Scott, or no, not Mark Scott and Todd. Scott and Todd. Super Radio Brothers have Rich, Mark, and Ben. Sorry, guys. And Second Rounds, New York edition, Florida edition, Russell Podcast with Robin Nelson, Deathmatch Russell Podcast with David C. Russell. Robin Nelson presents Paranormal Files 13, Bear Claw Survival, Phoenix Gate Podcast, and much, much more on Podcast City Network. Let's talk about supporters of the show right here. Let's talk about Sport Sanity Customs. Head over to Sport Sanity Customs for your Podcasting Network t-shirts. Be sure to hit them up on sportsanitycustoms.com. Let them know that we sent you Podcasting Network and you want that t-shirt from Sport Sanity Customs. City Limits Tap Room in DeLand, Florida. Home of Draft Day and a Podcasting Network. Proud partnership with Podcasting Network. Head over to DeLand City Limits Tap Room in DeLand, Florida, for a wide variety of sports, outdoor, indoor events, pool tables, dartboards, stage in the back for live music, and much, much more in DeLand, Florida. And then, of course, Atlantic Sound Records on International Boulevard in Daytona Beach. If you're looking for that custom vinyl record, that CD or cassette that's got away from you a long, long time ago, they may have it. So hit them up on Facebook, facebook.com, Atlantic Sound Records. And, of course, Telltale Travel. If you're booking a destination to get away from it all, make sure you hit up Brittany Imbler and let her know that you want to book that destination to go. Cody just got back from a cruise in Alaska, and he was hanging out in Portland and Seattle, all because of Telltale Travel. Hit Brittany Imbler up on the Podcasting Network sponsor tab. Click that tab and book your destination to get away from it all. This is all brought to you by podcastcity.net. And I believe that is it for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank everyone tuning in on Twitch. You check Podcast City Network out. Everett Lee Show here on twitch.tv/Podcast City Network. Make sure you follow and subscribe to Podcasting Network for shows like this here, The Everett Lee Show, and much, much more coming from the network. And I'm cueing the outro music because we're done, baby. Thank you, my guest, Wayne Palmer, for coming on tonight and talking with me and discussing with me with wrestling and everything that he does love. So, anyway, Everett Lee signing off. Everyone have a good night, and thank you for tuning in on to the Everett Lee Show. Peace.